Eichton, the Unknown God, a video by Juan Quinonez Alban. Etymologically, the word ether comes from the Latin Æther, that means the highest and purest part of the atmosphere, air, heavens, sky, light of day. From ancient Greek, Æther, purer upper air of the atmosphere, heaven, sky, theoretical medium supposed to fill an occupied space and transmit heat and light. From ancient Greek Ptah, to burn, ignite, to blaze, shine. From Proto-Indo-European, to burn, or a fire.
The word ether has several meanings. Ether in chemistry refers to a light volatile flammable liquid used as a solvent and especially formerly as an anesthetic, also refers to a chemical group. In a metaphorical sense, ether was believed as being the upper region of space, heavens. Contained in the Calamiterrium, the ethereal heaven, mentioned by Rabanus Maurus as quoted by St. Thomas Aquinas.
In Greek mythology there was a deity named as Æther, Æther, brightness, which was the personification of the bright upper sky. According to Hesiod, Æther was the son of Erebus, darkness, and Nyx, night, and brother of Hemera, day. In Orphic cosmogony, Æther was of the offspring of Kronos, time, and the brother of Chaos and Erebus. Æther was also the name of an ancient city. The Dictionary of the Bible by Sir William Smith, published on 1888, states the following about the word Æther as a city. Quote, Æther, known also as Æther, was one of the cities of Judah in the Low Country, the Shephelah allotted to Simeon, Joshua chapter 19, verse 8. In the Bible the word Æther, the city, was often substituted for the word Etam, another city. The word Æther, another name of the city Æther, might be translated as rich by the Strong's Dictionary or into deceitful by the NASB translation. Introducing the occult god, Eichton. Isaac Preston Corey, in his book, Metaphysical Inquiry into Method, Objects, and Result of Ancient and Modern Philosophy, mentions the following. In the Hermetic Creed, another Egyptian fragment of great antiquity, preserved by Iamblichus, and in the fragments preserved by Damascus, also of great antiquity, we find the Supreme represented as a monad prior, the first God and King, immovable in the solitude of his unity, the fountain of all things, and the root of all primary intelligible existing forms, the Indivisible One, the first effigies, who is denominated Eichton. He is venerated in silence, and celebrated as unknown darkness, 3 times pronounced as such. From this one, the self-ruling God shone forth, the monad from the one, the holy light, Emeth, the ruler of the celestial gods, the demiurgic intellect, which, when it proceeds to generations, is called Amon, but perfecting all things not deceptively but artificially according to truth, Ptah, or Hephaestus, and as the producer of all good, Osiris. According Iamblichus, Emeth evolves into a triple deity, Amon, the generator, Ptah, the perfecting truly, Osiris, the producer of good. But according to Mnesis, the 3, who are united as Epiphas, are Sarapis, Dionysius, Osiris. Eichton is also known as Æther, Eichton, Eichton. The first magic. Magic, not magician.
James Bonwick, in his book Egyptian Belief and Modern Thought, associated Neph, or Seneph, with the god Eichton, Æther, and with the god Khem. Neph is singularly allied to Khem, having much the same qualities. Some regard Nuphis, Nu, or Num, as more properly Neph than Khem. But both these are exponents of creative force, or the spirit of God moving upon the face of the waters. Porphyry of Tyre terms Neph as the creator of the universe. Eusebius, full of the old Egyptian and Greek philosophy, saw the rabbinical and Platonic logos in many of the so-called gods, and speaks of Kneph as divine intellect, which was the demiurgus of the world, giving life to all things. Plutarch calls him the unmade and eternal deity. He is Eichton or Æther, the blue element, and was always painted blue. With the asp between the 2 horns of his ram's head, he is often represented with an egg, the mark of creation, proceeding from his mouth. Helena Petrovna Blavatsky in her Theosophical Glossary provided us an association between Eichton, Neph and Numis. Numis, Greek word. The same as Nufis and Neph. A symbol of creative force, Numis or Neph is the unmade and eternal deity according to Plutarch. He is represented as blue, Æther, and with his ram's head with an asp between the horns, he might be taken for Ammon or Nufis, as Eichton or Æther Numis, he holds in his mouth an egg, the symbol of evolution. Yeah, this is pretty similar to what the previous author that we saw already said years before. John Gardner Wilkinson on his book Materia Hieroglyphica mentions that Eichton was also known as Eichton. Garth Fowden in his book The Egyptian Hermes, A Historical Approach to the Late Pagan Mind, 1993, mentions the following. The demiurgic nous, master of truth and wisdom, when it comes into sphere of generation, and leads into the light the invisible power of the hidden words, is called Amun, in the language of the Egyptians, but when it executes everything unerringly and artfully and truly, then it is called Ptah, which the Greeks translate as Hephaestus, applying it only to the gods, quality as artisan, while as giver of blessing it is called Osiris, and it has other names corresponding to its other powers and activities. The Encyclopedia Americana of 1859 mentions the following. The Persians placed above their Ormuzd and Ahriman their Zeruanan Kerm, and the eternal word. Even the Egyptians had, in their Eichton, a supreme being, at least for their secret religion. If we endeavor to trace the belief of a trinity as high as we can, we are not to imagine that Plato was the inventor of this trinity of hypostases, it being much older than this time, though it does not appear that it was ever before wrought into such a philosophical system, as it was by him and his followers. Plotinus says, it appears from Plato's own writings, that these doctrines are not new or of yesterday, but have been very anciently delivered, though obscurely, Parmenides before him having insisted on them, and the discourses now extant being only explications of them. Now Parmenides was a Pythagorean, whence it is probable, that the doctrine of a divine triad was one of the arcana of that school, and that the oriental maxim which Pythagoras brought with him into Greece, that God was related to that doctrine, the Pythagorean philosophy was derived from the Orphic Kabbalah, as Proclus testifies. For Orpheus introduced a trimorphic god, a triform deity, and Aemilius tells us, that Plato's three kings were the same with the trinity of Orpheus, Phans, Uranus and Cronus. But Plato nevertheless asserted one self-existent deity and original of all things, and says, all things were made by one deity, under these several names, light, counsel, and life. Orpheus, Pythagoras, and Plato all traveling into Egypt, were there initiated in the arcane theology of the Egyptians, whence it seems probable, that this was an Egyptian doctrine. Athanasius Kircherus does not doubt it, and Iamblichus mentions the three hypostases by the names of Eichton, Emeph, or Neph, and Ptah. The identity of Eichton, or Hyken, is still unclear. Some have read it as a corruption of Irita, who in Theban theology is the offspring of Kmeph, though in our system Hychton comes before Kmeph. Since Hychton is referred to as the first magic, Elsa Orial has plausibly suggested an identification with the Egyptian god Heka, whose abstract form is the creative principle of the gods, which is most often translated simply as magic. Wanna do some research on your own? Search the terms Eichton, Eichton, Æther, Eichton Æther. But please remember that those who seek a higher state of consciousness often look for the ether, the fifth element, but ether is also another name of Æther. Æther not only means essence or a pharmacist, but is also the name of a deity, associated with Venus. Æther the luminous. Helel ben Sahar. The unfamous. Lucifer.
Between the lines of the scripture, connect the dots and see the big picture.